Hi, I'm Wes Allen with DM Tales, and I just reviewed a game that had so many cool goodies and mechanics in it that I felt I needed to do a second video on the system. So this is my look at GM tools and cool mechanics from Tales of Argosa. Let's roll it. Before we begin, I want to shout out everyone who has liked, commented, and subscribed to DM Tales. It helps a lot. And if you'd consider doing those things for this video, I would be most grateful. And I have to give a special shout out to my coffee contributors who help keep this channel going out of the kindness of their hearts. If you'd like to join the channel, the link is right over there. Also, if you're looking for some cool stuff to wear, check out my merch store for t-shirts and hoodies, including this one, for anyone who's ever suffered from the dice curse. With all that out of the way, let's get back to Tales of Argosa. Tales of Argosa utilizes the same terminology for resting as 5th edition D&D, but don't expect the same old rests. After a battle, a party may take a few minutes to recover and tend to injuries before continuing on the journey, and during this period, each player can make 2 willpower checks. For each success a player makes, a player may choose from several options, and they may choose the same option twice. They may attempt to recover half their lost hit points, which works well with the way hit points are abstracted in the game. Damage is not limited to the physical wounds characters take during combat. Rather, hit points are an abstract idea, which includes fatigue, strained muscles, and equipment degradation. Taking a few minutes to breathe helps the characters get their wind back so they can continue on. If a player chooses this option twice, the character is only able to recover 3/4 of their hit points lost because, well, physical damage is part of the abstraction, and I like how all of this is set up. If a check for healing fails, a healer's kit can expend 1 use to convert any single willpower check to a success. There are also some other items which can assist with hit point recovery, like smelling salts and poppy milk. 6 hours of sleep will restore 1 hit point to a character without a willpower check, so that's nice. If that rest is done in comfortable conditions, 2 hit points are recovered. Class abilities accrue typically at 1 use per adventure per character level. At low levels, this makes class abilities precious commodities, which may prevent characters from using them until a big moment. And on one hand, a strategic use of character resources is part of what makes games challenging, but on the other hand, using special abilities is part of what makes games fun. Tales of Argosa holds class abilities such as spellcasting in both hands. Using an ability does come with some risk. They aren't guaranteed success, and they aren't unlimited. But the game also allows players to make a willpower check during a short rest to restore a single use of an ability. This frees players to use their abilities with a little bit less risk, but at higher levels, when players are more likely to expend several uses of their abilities during combat because they're facing stronger foes, class abilities will inevitably diminish throughout the adventure, and I enjoy that balance. In addition to class ability and hit point recovery, players may also choose to recover a single reroll use or, on a great success, recover an attribute point lost to some special attacks, excluding, of course, luck. A long rest in Tales of Argosa is a full week in a safe location, although comfortable travel on a safe road counts as a safe location for this purpose. This restores all hit points, all class abilities, all expended rerolls, and all lost attribute points, and it also recovers just one point of luck. I like making a long rest a full week because it creates a ticking clock which might push a party to journey on even if they aren't at full strength. Taking a full long rest may put the party in more jeopardy if there's a time limit built into their current task. And even when the time is taken for a long rest, it doesn't replenish a character's most precious resource, luck. I really like how rests are handled in Tales of Argosa and how healing is tied to it. Really cool stuff. When a party finishes an adventure, they get to decide how much in-game time passes before their next adventure begins. But this is not arbitrary because characters have a number of activities they may pursue in between adventures, like recovering from traumatic injuries, magical research, rumor hunting, carousing, or building a home base. Each of these activities has a time frame which will guide players' decisions regarding the time gaps between adventures. There are some nice rules in the book for various downtime activities. There's an extended section on carousing, which creates some interesting adventure hooks. There's a full page dedicated to recovery, another full page on how magical research works, and a page on potion brewing. All really cool stuff. Nor is downtime automatically peaceful. As it progresses, something interesting will happen. The amount of time it takes for these interesting events to take place and what the something interesting is are determined by rolling on 2 tables found on page 113 in the core rulebook. Now, I like this something happened concept, but I would have enjoyed some more guidance on what these events might look like and how they impact the characters. Does this become the next session, for example? All in all, downtime in Tales of Argosa is both interesting, and it helps create some open adventures to explore when the party is ready to adventure once more. It's very nice, but I would have liked to see just a little bit more fleshed out in it. There are a number of cool GM tools included in Tales of Argosa, including rules for both diseases and parasites, neither of which I use enough of in my games. This is going to encourage me to start throwing them at people. But the 2 I appreciate the most are the dungeon crawling and exploration procedures. See, when you're crawling a dungeon, a GM keeps a dungeon tally. This begins at 1 and increases when the party draws attention to itself, is being indecisive, or there's a natural lull in the adventure. When the tally reaches 6, the GM rolls 2d6 on the dungeon event table found on page 133. While the results include some old-school wandering monster encounters, a dungeon event is really a way to tweak the narrative in ways that drive the fiction. A resource like water may be discovered to have run out, signs of danger might appear somewhere in the tunnel, or a potential ally might be discovered. This is a fun way to keep things fresh without constantly throwing a party back into combat, which, it can become tedious. Exploration rules are also fun. Each day in Tales of Argosa consists of 2 shifts broken down into 6 watches, or 3 watches for each shift. The time it takes to complete a Hexploration action is calculated in the number of watches it will take to accomplish. So moving into a hex with mountainous terrain, for example, takes 3 watches, or 1 shift. A table with examples for various Hexploration actions is found on page 134 in the core rulebook. Now, when beginning a day's travel, each character takes up a travel role, each of which requires a specific check. Lookouts may spot ambushes, guides try to keep a party on course, foragers are able to get enough food for a day, scouts look for danger up ahead, rear guards may keep the party from being surprised from behind and can cover their tracks, quartermasters help keep a party supplied and in good spirits, supporting characters can negate an encumbered character's penalty for moving. It adds shift totals to their travel by lending assistance. There is an excellent travel procedure callout found on page 135 in Tales of Argosa, which explains how the travel procedures work in the game. There is also a number of nice tables for things like weather changes and exploration results found there as well. Unlike dungeon crawling, however, there's no Hexploration tally. Instead, the GM consults the bones each day to see if a travel event is triggered. I'm going to cover how that's done in just a bit. Tales of Argosa includes a mass combat system which is designed to be cinematic and fun. Rather than calculating the differing strengths of the sides involved in the conflict and then playing out the battle as a war game, Tales of Argosa puts the characters in the center of the action. To reach a battle's climax, known as the final confrontation, the PCs must deal with a number of field events. These are rolled on a d20 table and put into play one after the other, and the PCs are the only characters who are able to confront that issue. These cinematic events drain the PCs of their resources on their way to the final confrontation, so players have to be judicious in the way each event is handled. I like that a lot. The field events table is filled with fun encounters. There's straight up combat with a large number of foes, animals might break free and wreak havoc on the battlefield, or a nearby commander might urge the party to sneak behind enemy lines to spy or commit sabotage. Real fun stuff. Each of these events may take the entire party or be broken up into smaller groups, which brings the chaos of battle more to the foreground as the party gets separated. It's all very cool. But while splitting the party increases tension, party members who are sidelined for a field event may get a little bit bored. Well, Tales of Argosa has you covered. The GM can consult the bones, again, more on that in a bit, to see if the rest of the party suffered a sudden twist. These twists are interesting, and not all of them are negative. Allied reinforcements might arrive, or a nameless soldier may step in between a party member and a killing blow. On the other hand, sudden twist may also see a party member losing a weapon, or pushed up against dangerous terrain, or facing a sudden charge from the enemy. So these twists are really wild. They are also triggered when any character rolls a 1 on an attack during combat, so it increases again the chaos of battle. It's really cool. Now, after 6 field encounters, the party faces the enemy's boss or other leadership and confronts them in battle. The winner of this final confrontation is the winner of the battle. Though if the PCs fail to handle most of the field events in a satisfactory manner, that victory may be Pyrrhic. It's totally up to the GM. I would have enjoyed a bit more guidance on setting up this final confrontation after the field events and sudden twist got such wonderful spotlights in the book, but I do like the concept. Putting the characters in the center of a mass battle as a cinematic focus is fun. It makes the players feel the chaos and the desperation of battle while also putting them in the center of the action. In fact, after reading the mass combat setup for Low Fantasy Gaming, which is the direct predecessor to Tales of Argosa, I used a version of this concept for a desperate battle during a mini campaign I ran online, and it was a blast. Tales of Argosa includes a wonderful bestiary, but its most significant contribution to the hobby may be its guidance on how to create special adversaries. Bosses, for example, double their HP total. They go before the party unless the group rolls a great success on their initiative check. They can negate damage with a successful luck save, even when a luck save to avoid damage isn't allowed. They have a number of rerolls to use and are immune to major exploits until they lose half their hit points. Bosses also have off-turn attacks and may make a single physical attack or cast a single spell after every PC turn. I love the setup for bosses in Tales of Argosa. They are dangerous, and because they hit back after every PC turn, they aren't ever going to go down without a fight, and I think that is amazing. Now, heavies, on the other hand, aren't quite as dangerous as bosses, but they are still buffed. Like bosses, they'll go before the party unless the initiative roll is a great success. They have 50% more hit points than normal. They may make a luck check to negate damage, just like a boss, and they are also immune to major exploits until they lose half their HP. Now, they don't have off-turn attacks, but they will have a special ability which makes them more dangerous than the average creature of their type. They may have a magic item. They might auto-kill downed PCs if they aren't rescued before the heavy's next turn. Or maybe they'll do double damage on a successful attack because they're just that strong. Heavies are tough. I love how these special adversaries are designed. A boss or a heavy can stand on their own and be a significant threat to a party, so defeating one feels like a true victory. By my count, I did this manually, there are 153 monster listings in the book, though some of these are used for multiple kinds of creatures. Birds and bats, for example, share the same stat block. Now, each creature has a paragraph describing its nature, followed by a condensed stat block, which fits well into the text. This block is easy to read and can be transported into a GM's notes rather easily. It also denotes if the monster is always considered a boss, such as a lich. Some creatures, such as Pickpocket Press's ergot, are given more treatment. These creatures have some more detailed write-ups regarding their behavior and motivations. They list some special versions of the creature, in addition to bosses and heavies, that is, and a table listing some special abilities they might have. The bestiary is cool. Now, I would have loved to have had artwork for each of the creatures listed in it so we could envision what Argosa's version of these monsters looked like, but with so many entries, it just would have been cost prohibitive. But that's not to say the bestiary's artwork is sparse, because far from it. There is art on every page in the bestiary showing one or two of the creatures which appear on that spread. The Hellhound on page 177 and the Knoll on page 185, they are my favorites. I love those pieces of art. It is a ton of content, which will keep tables challenged for a good long while. Now, one of the more interesting aspects of Tales of Argosa is the inclusion of oracle dice. They're set up like this. First, you have the Hammer of Judgment, which is a red d6 with runes on it indicating yes and no. The Twins of Fate are two different white d6s with slightly different runes for yes and no, but also with several blank faces. The Fortune die is a black die with a skull, which means misfortune, and a sun, which means fortune, as well as some blank faces as well. Whenever a player asks a question for which the GM has no prepared response, these dice can be rolled. Each yes and no response cancels each other out. If the final tally has more no or yes results, well, that's the answer. If the final tally includes multiple yes or no results, then the answer is emphatic. In the case of a tie, the result on the red judgment die is always determinative. The fortune die, on the other hand, offers further nuance. Both yes and no results may produce a twist which can either benefit or hinder the group. Now, there's also a deck of signs which can be used to create a response that's more complex than yes or no questions that are posed to the GM. This is set up like a tarot deck, which I admit is not really my thing, but the deck offers a host of information in response to questions which can set the game world off in some rather interesting directions. For me, both these tools are great for solo play and are like no other Oracle tool I've seen on the market. While these tools may be purchased as physical copies, Tales of Argosa's creator, Stephen Gradzicki, has created dice maps for the Oracle dice that can be used in an app that's available for both Android and iOS devices. Now, getting access to the custom dice, that is, using those maps, requires purchasing the app's premium features. Those typically cost under $5, which is not a whole lot. Also, if you're running Foundry VT, the free system install for that VTT includes both the deck of signs and the Oracle dice, and they both look fantastic. There is so much in Tales of Argosa, I can't cover it all even in 2 videos. I'm really impressed with it, but even better, I'm not overwhelmed. The rules strike a wonderful balance between being available to the table and just getting out of the way. If you want to access some wonderful GM tools, even if you aren't planning on playing Tales of Argosa, this is a fine book to pick up. And you can do that at DriveThruRPG right now. A hardbound and PDF combo will cost you $44.95. The PDF alone goes for $24.95. I've got Rust and Redemption waiting to be brought to you, as well as my unnamed Numenera book, which I'm hoping my party will encounter soon. I'm enjoying reading Dreams and Machines right now, and just picked up my second Modiphius book, Star Trek Adventures 2nd Edition, as a Father's Day present from my daughter, so thank you very much, dear. I've read 6 pages of it so far, and I'm already hooked. It's really well done. I've also got all the things on my shelf, including Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland, Never Going Home, and Zombie Brain Eaters Seasons Eatings. I'm looking forward to bringing this all to you. So, until we see each other again, folks, happy playing, everyone.